Hello all, here we are again in the kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make a simple tomato sauce with fresh tomatoes done in the blender and then cooked. What I mean by that is you're going to get the tomatoes, you're going to crush them up in the blender, put them to make the sauce and let it cook. Now it does require just a little bit of time to cook, about 45 minutes or so, which is fine, but the flavor is just so fresh and so good. Now if you have tomatoes that are left over from the week prior that need to be used up, nice and red tomatoes like this, even if there's a little, like a little spot on it, that's okay. You can cut the spot off and the rest of the tomato is fine. But they're too soft really to eat as is, and they're just nice and ripe enough to make a wonderful sweet sauce. So here we go. So the first thing you're going to do, like every other sauce, you're going to start off with your herbs. So you have onion and garlic, and parsley, basil, and a little bit of pepper. Not hot, doesn't have to be hot pepper. It can be just like a regular sweet pepper, bell pepper, or shepherd pepper. Now I like to just chop them up nice and fine. Learn how to use a chopping knife. It's your best friend. It really expedites the work in the kitchen. So there's my onion chopped. It's my garlic. Peels in an instant when you crush it like that. So there's my garlic. And oops, that's going to be chopped. Same as the onion. And you see how quick you can work with a proper chopping knife? Okay, there's garlic. I'm going to add one more clove just for good measure. Just because it tastes good and it's nice and fresh and I like it. So there's another clove of garlic. Yeah, it helps when you bang on it. Get rid of that frustration that one may have during the course of the day. So there's that. Here I have fresh basil and parsley that I picked from the garden still, believe it or not, from my pot. This is, it's fall in Canada and it's starting to get cold, but we haven't had any frost quite yet. So it's still nice and fresh, and the parsley seems to thrive in the cooler weather. Basil, maybe not so much. It's more of a prima donna type herb. But the parsley certainly is really, really good and really nice and fresh. So, and there is, I'm going to put a little bit of basil in to saute with the herbs. The rest of the basil I'll put in when the sauce is almost cooked to get the most flavor out of it. Here is shepherd pepper. They're really good this time of year because they're just picked fresh and not done in the greenhouses. They're picked in the fields. I don't like to use a whole lot because it tends to overpower the sauce. So I just cut a little bit, as you can see, 3 little strips, and I'm chopping them up, and then I'm going to saute them. Before I start sauteing though, I am going to get my tomato puree ready. So the tomato puree is basically just get the tomatoes, cut off the tip, and just cut them in pieces, put them in a bowl to be put in the food processor or blender or smoothie maker or whatever you may have. Now here's one that's a little bit not quite as red. I don't know if you can see the difference, but I'm going to leave that one out. That has a little bit more shelf life. So this is all you do. Tomatoes have all been cut. I have a nice big bowl of cut up tomatoes that I'm going to put in the blender to make the tomato puree out of. So here's my food processor. It's in its home in its cubby right next to the meat slicer. So I'm putting the tomatoes in the food processor. appliance. Okay, so it's as easy as that. Now if you have a Vitamix or a blender or anything else, that will work too. You may have to add, if the tomatoes are, if it's the tomato puree is too thick and not fine enough for your taste, well then just add a little bit of water and it'll puree even more. Okay, so here's my pot. I'm going to put in some EVOO, just enough to cover the bottom. Like that. Turn on the stove, and I'm going to turn it not quite to the maximum. I'm going to turn it to just a little bit lower because this is induction. It heats up very, very quickly. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to add my chopped up herbs. And I'm going to let them saute to start sauteing for a little bit. Once they start sauteing, there is just this beautiful, wonderful smell that is unparalleled. Well, I'm going to turn it up a bit. It is totally unparalleled. Now you see how it looks inside the pot? Everything is going to start to saute any minute now. You can hear it sizzling. Turn the exhaust fan on. Smells wonderful. And take and dump all the pureed tomato in. Because I don't want to lose any of this goodness in here, I'm just going to put some water and rinse it out and add it to the sauce. So there you have it. There's a bit of water, and I'm going to scrape it down. You're going to need water anyway because I didn't add any, and this is pretty thick if you don't. Okay. That, how nice it looks. Okay, so then this is going to start to bubble. I'm going to add some salt, and I usually just use the box and eyeball it. I like kosher salt. It just is a little bit more natural. So there's a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And I like to add just a little bit of oregano and tomato sauce. Now this tomato sauce is slated for veal parmigiana. So nothing fancy, just needs to be a simple tomato sauce because the meat has to shine through along with the cheese. So now I'm just going to cover it. And the sauce has come to a nice boil. It's at a rolling boil, so that's too high for it to simmer on. Although you'll see that it is a little bit thinner than the average sauce because of the water content. The Roma tomatoes, the ones that I used, have less water content than the round tomatoes, like the vine ripened. They have a lot of water content, therefore it would be even more watery. So now I just turned it down to a medium. You can put it medium to a medium low depending on your stove and the the strength of it. So actually I put it kind of a medium-low for this one here. I'm just going to cover it and let it simmer and stir it from time to time as it simmers for about 45 minutes. Okay, now the sauce is simmering away. You see, by taking the lid off, it simmers a little more slowly, so you see how the little oil droplets are starting to form. Time to add the basil now. That it's almost cooked. I would say another 15 minutes or so. Add the basil almost at the very end. Just broken up, not chopped fine, just broken up, just or bruised, just to get the flavor out of it. That's wonderful. Now you have to actually taste to see if there's enough salt in it. So I grab a little spoon, take a little bit of the sauce. Okay, just a little bit. Perfect. Parent leaf of basil there. So now I'm just going to let it simmer a little bit more, and I'm just going to let it simmer with the lid half on, half off, a little bit open. Okay, so the sauce is cooked. It's ready to be used. Look at that goodness. Oh, it's so delicious. Now you can use it on pasta. You can use it on pizza, on veal parmigiana, wherever you like. And it really didn't take very long, considering that you just put the ingredients together in the pot, that you don't have to stand there and watch it cook. It cooks all on its own. Just come back and stir it once in a while just to make sure it doesn't burn at the bottom. So now it's ready to, most of the water has evaporated away, and everything looks really fresh and vibrant still. So it's not overcooked, it's just right. I hope you enjoyed this video.